Okay, it's going.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Abundance Podcast, and thank you for tuning in. This evening, we're going to be talking about the Sumerian tablets that the supposedly AI has taken a look at and translated, and we'll see if what's going on with that, and if it's true or not, or what our opinions are about it. I think it's pretty interesting, and I think that you'll enjoy it. So, what do you think, David? What do you think we should start with?
Well, I think we should talk about the AI itself a little bit to give people a little understanding of. There are people that still don't understand AI and the technical aspects of it, and then basically what the AI is saying, and then we can get into our opinions, I guess. So, here. Let me find my notes. So, for centuries, thousands of Sumerian tablets have sat in silence, their symbols fractured and their meaning lost. Then recently, AI stepped in. Machine learning models began to piece together the fragments scholars couldn't, resurrecting the entire story buried for 5,000 years. Um, so that's kind of the opening to the idea. Uh, One of the things that I would say about AI is that it very much is biased by the operator. And so, uh, if I phrase a question with a certain, I guess, leaning, then the AI will pick up on that and tend to uh, reflect back to me my opinion. So that is something to keep in mind about all of this with AI. And as we proceed forward, we can talk a little bit about how that could affect things. Um, so, do you have your own notes, Tony, or do you want me to keep going?
I do have some notes, but you can go ahead and keep going. What I feel about it also is that, um, from what I hear, they've been looking at it with AI since 2023. The Israelis and a couple other countries have used it, and the majority of them have just said that it says exactly what they thought it was, was saying all along. And but that then again, that's from a source who may be biased. So um,
Right, and
we'll
that
see
is
what.
exactly my point.
So I agree. We should go on, and it looks like the show is playing well. So
Okay, so it was some sort of issue with my drivers or something. Um, this isn't translation anymore, according to the AI that wrote my script here. It's revelation. AI just it doesn't just read the ancient scripts; it interprets the patterns across references, mythology, geology, and connections to civilization that uh, supposedly were never uh, incorporated before. The result hints at the Sumerians weren't myth makers; they were historians describing real creation events, allegedly.
and
Um,
yes, and that's is that what Chat GBT took from the video?
I basically took because there's more than one video on it. I gathered up 5 or 6 different videos, and I ran their transcripts through uh, a Grok first, and then although I like Grok's research better, I don't like its formatting, and so then I took the research and I formatted it in ChatGPT.
Well, I can tell you what when I asked it a direct question about the validity of the videos, and I can tell you what that said, and we can discuss that a little bit if you wish. It said the rumor referring to the stems from a series of viral YouTube videos and social media posts circulating in late 2025 with titles like AI just translated the ancient Sumerian texts and reveals terrifying knowledge about human races. These videos claim to have a recent breakthrough that have fully translated previous undecipherable Sumerian and cuneiform tablets, uncovering a hidden history where ancient gods, the Anunnaki, engineered humans into deliberate prototypes. And for specific roles in labor, mining, priesthood, according to the narrative. And this process embedded, inherent divisions of physical traits, abilities, reproductive habits, and into humanity from the start. Essentially saying, basically, we have a job. If we violate that job, then God's going to get mad at us. And essentially creating races as a form of divine control and inequality rather than through natural evolution or migration. And it turns to these themes of gods clashing over human potential, selective tech distributions, flight of weapons and cosmic cycles that reset or erase certain groups, framing modern inequalities as a scripted from an antiquity. So, what do you think about Rock's version of it? What it thinks of it so far?
Well, I don't know. I do feel like that there is, although all humans are created in God's mind as equal and under the law we're all equal, clearly certain people have different assets. And there's a big difference between Norwegians and Saharan Africans. I mean, it's very clear that they have different pluses and minuses. And so I don't know if what they're saying is true. I do know that that it has some sort of validity, whether God's made us or God made us. It goes against the version that Christianity pushes for sure, that we're all made in God's image and we all look like God. And that we're all representations. This is saying that the gods basically made us to do certain roles. And I will say that if you were a tyrannical super race and you were coming to a planet, I think to do work, which is the idea, the Anunnaki are supposed to be here mining gold because gold somehow supports their civilization, which, I mean, it supports ours. So there is, again, some, reality there.
So the Anunnaki are jewelers.
Well, one of the main things that people forget about is that if you were going to build a spacecraft, one of the best insulators against radiation is gold. We use gold foil on all our spacecraft.
And of course, it doesn't oxidize, so it's permanent.
Yes. And if you were looking to build things long term, whether it's a civilization, you might tend to build things in granite and gold.
And another thing that it said, because I watched several videos and looked at researches with Grok, is that they were all made in God's image. They just had different parts of His image, and they were to remain separate. And of course, this would be, and is a special priest class that understands everything and should rule everyone, and everyone else should bow down to them. It just, in a way, it sounds like propaganda from the top, trying to tell everyone to stay in their place too. So you could argue that, and it doesn't mean that's
and I
true.
think that's what the aliens would want too.
Of course.
So if you
don't want a bunch of these people coming together with all these traits and then have one guy that can do all this crap, that would be probably against their wishes.
Right. And the other thing is, I believe it's in the Bible. But didn't God come down and mix up all the languages?
Yes, it's very Sumerian, Tower of Babel, and this is in their lore too, from this video, which is more in line with the Zechariah Stitchin's belief. This stuff lines up with his beliefs, and it could be just like you said, because they put that into the AI for them to look for that. So that's what comes out, garbage in, garbage out. But we don't know. But yes, that is exactly what happened. Is
So
that
and so
God made, because they were so evil and they were so anti-God, he made them speak different languages so they couldn't cooperate.
but another way of looking at this is um so I've seen so when we're talking about God in the terms of these things, I want to make clear that that's not the God of the universe. It's a false God. It's a guy pretending to be God. And so these Anunnaki super beings, false gods, are proclaim to be God, but they're not. And so I've seen many people talk about that. All of these things, these religions, um, are particularly the Old Testament, the Babylonian, and all that stuff, are really talking about
The
alien
Watchers,
encounters. Well,
yes,
they're
the
alien
Watchers.
encounters with false gods, and these aliens are pretending to be God, but they're genetically making a slave race to lord over, and that has nothing to do with the real God. But in the story, there's Enki and Enlil, and
Hmm.
one is a humanitarian, and the other one is basically a diabolical warlord, and they don't agree. And the good God, who's actually the humanitarian, is weaker. He's good, but weaker than the warlord. And the warlord basically kicks the good one's ass and sends him packing, because he's not actually he's a philosopher and a humanitarian basically, and he's the one that actually gave humans the ability to reproduce and to have basically all the traits of the Anunnaki against the will of this military god. And I forget which one's the but I think it's Enlil. It's Enki and Enlil. Enlil is, I think, the evil one, and he is pissed off, and he's actually decides to flood the earth, not because it was evil, but because it was too like them, and so they tried to destroy the all humanity, but it didn't work. And that is kind of the story. But the good God is helping us secretly, and he's been painted as the bad God because he's rebelling against this grand order of aliens. And so it could be that they mix up the languages and they punish everybody because we're trying to be free. That is one
Well,
interpretation.
if you look at it from a Christian point of view, that can be pretty close to an explanation uh, between angels, extremely powerful ones, some of whom have become evil or lording over their planet, and they were supposedly controlling every aspect of it, including genetics, which is supposedly, and of course, I believe that is the reason for Noah's Ark, and that can all be explained. It's just from a different point of view. It's almost like from the Satanist point of view of how things were, and then there's the good side's point of view of how things were, and so they might
Well,
be
no,
telling the same story, just in a
it's
different
telling the
way.
same story, but the one that actually saves humanity and tells is the weaker gods. That he doesn't,
According to who?
like, according to him, their point of view, that he lost. The earth was destroyed because Enlil, the vicious god, and he's also assigned the same role as the archons in certain uh, esoteric types of views. He's basically a usurper. He's trying to usurp the role of the divine God of the universe and lording over Earth. And he's really evil, but he pretends to be the real good God, and he wants everyone to worship him and bless, chastise him, and not chastise him, but love him and all that stuff. And the other god is more of a secret god, and essentially is trying to help humanity break free of slavery. And the idea is that the everybody was a slave, and this rebellion was to free everybody. It, essentially it would be Enlil is Lucifer, and Lucifer is pretending to be God, and angels that are not up to Lucifer's par are basically um, secretly propping up the good guys on Earth, trying to give humanity the ability to fight back. And when Satan figures this out, he flattens the Earth with in various like the Babylonians actually describe it as technology, like a nuclear war. And so that's
Well, if
so it would be
say
equivalent of
Lucifer,
saying that.
say Lucifer decided to wipe us out, he can, of course. Um, but I'm not, because I'm a Christian. Some of this stuff just sounds like counter propaganda to Christianity in a way. But
Well, you have to take into account it's 4 or 5 thousand years before.
and people were good at propaganda back then too.
Sure, but it's not anti-Christian. It's just
Well, I
an
haven't
earlier
seen.
chapter.
Is that people's translations of what they think it said?
Yes,
Just
that
like
is
these,
that
yeah. That's the
that
problem. Is that we all are at the same impasse. We don't know understand. We don't understand what they're talking about, but we're trying
well
to do our
it
best.
yes, we're trying to do our best, but the idea is that the war god, the god that's all about order and everybody in their spot and all that stuff, like we were talking about, is not the god. He's not God of the universe. He didn't make the whole universe. He is a being that came to Earth and made humans to lord over specifically. He has nothing to do with the divine God. They all believe in that. They all know that there's something above them, way above them, and they're not confused about their status. They're just trying to confuse us.
So so in their lore, we're just some product of some megamaniacal demon, and and and
Right.
someone's trying to come around to save us by what magic? The reason I say that wouldn't be possible because if your creator decides that you're not going to be around anymore, whether he's evil or not, you're not going to be, and there's not going to be.
Well, again, the Enlil is not a scientist or a benevolent. So Enki, and I could be confusing the names, so forgive me, but there's a good god and there's a bad god. The guy that actually made humanity is he went against the wishes of his general, and he was like a scientist. And think of it as that way. It's a scientist who actually likes animals and likes creation, and is a peace person. Decided that yeah, I'm going to make these beings, but I'm going to make them in my own image with everything I have. And then this general was like, "What the f did you do? We got to get rid of these things. They're unruly. They don't do what they're told. They're not automatons. They're living beings." And we weren't even supposed to have the ability to reproduce. We were only, and according to Sitchin, is we were only supposed to be manufactured. And the good one gave us the ability to have. We started off as all male, and then essentially, basically, this weaker but benevolent being gave us the ability to reproduce. And that's what really pissed them off, is he made women. And then we started having children, and we reproduced so fast according to them that we got out of control. And then we started actually building civilization, in just like they did, and he considered it a threat. The part of the thing is even when we lived 1,000 years, we had very short lifespans compared to them, and so it was like
You could
one
still
day.
do a whole hell of a lot of damage in 1,000 years.
Right,
I mean,
and that's why the reason Enlil, according to the Babylonian thing, got upset is he was upset that we were becoming like them, that we were building things like civilization and we were building to the skies, just like we are now, and that was an offense to him. He wanted us. This war god wanted a groveling laborer, like a beast of burden, not a competitor. And so, but Enlil actually, I mean, Enki actually took them, humans, as wives. And so that's where the whole, I think the Watchers taking, I think, so it I think there's a pieces of each story that could or could not be true. I'm not saying any of them are true. That's just what I've heard about the Babylonian story. Um,
well, yeah, the Babylonians were experts at top-down control. They were the first people, as far as we know,
right.
to master it, master propaganda, master mind control, master all those things, and that is right up the alley of a evil, extraterrestrial or demon.
Right.
That is something that doesn't come naturally to beings.
No,
There's
on
no
their own, they
jaguar
almost
out
always
there.
live in family-like units where
Yeah, there's no
maybe there's a
jaguar out there
matriarch or a patriarch, but
enslaving other jaguars to go and get food for him. That doesn't happen.
no.
It's just
Now, the closest thing that we could see to our own, um, besides human beings themselves that live in, a non-civilized state, it would be like chimpanzees and gorillas. And what you always see is there's a father figure, and he basically,
his male
uh,
children who aren't grown up yet.
yes, and he basically prevents war from happening inside the tribe. He settles things, and he does most of the heavy lifting himself. He's not, um, and that's what you see in a family unit is, and but once you get above that, what you see once you start getting into politics, which I think is primarily evil, and that whole concept supposedly comes from Babylon. You're as soon as you get into the top down control and worrying about what everybody else is doing, that seems demonic. I mean, civilization, um, for the most part, uh, like what we're going through now, during the 1700s to, let's say, maybe the beginning of the 1900s in the United States, we had a lot of freedom and people did what they wanted. And that's when the United States boomed. And then from the 1900s till now, they've been increasingly increasing the level of control on us, and everything is stagnating and dying. And so I think the natural order of things perform better when people are allowed, not just people, but when the universe functions without satanic control.
Well, you got lazy ass, parasitic pussies out there trying to get other people's shit. Is what it is. That's what all of it's about. And you have to form an army in case your neighbors are like that. In case your neighbors are going to come in and take your stuff. And that's why in Christianity, the three things that is considered evil that's created by Satan is lying, killing, and stealing. Everything is based. All crime is based on that. So that is the basis of most politics, is to delude people into believing something, especially if they're not educated, so that they follow you. And
Right. The
so they
assumption is humans are too stupid on their own to uh, rule themselves, and this comes from Babylon. And that does sound like something that a war god would say.
and he might not even believe it. He just thinks it's convenient. It's politically what do you call it? Not correct, but
Expedient.
expedient. Yes.
And so,
In other words, he was thinking like a pure sociopath, a psychopath. He had, like did I ever tell you that joke about the how they can test if you're a psycho or not? It's just a
no.
simple question. I'll tell you a story. Uh, this gentleman went to a funeral and he saw this beautiful woman, and she was watching. Her father just passed away, and she's crying, and he's watching her, and uh, he can't believe how beautiful she is. So she walks away from that, and he talks to her briefly. He's afraid to ask her out because it's a funeral, and 2 or 3 weeks later, her mother dies. Why?
Because the psychopath killed her so he could talk to her again.
Yes, that's what a psycho would say. Mike, you're a psycho. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, it's obvious where the joke is going.
Yeah, that's what it is. And if you ask them that, the first thing they think of, oh yeah, of course you'd kill the mother. How else are you going to meet her again? You know. And so, since I primed you with the idea that it's a psycho joke, you figured it out. But a real psycho, if you just told them that story, that's the first thing they would tell you without thinking about it being a psycho. And so they think about what's expedient first. Morally, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that they're actually like expedient to the point where who cares about what happens to anyone, and that's the part we call demonic. You put zero value to anyone but yourself. It's the ultimate in egomaniacy, and it becomes impossible to run a culture like that. Eventually, it always collapses.
Yeah, you can't have everyone or even just the leadership being psychopathic.
No,
And that's actually what we see happening in Europe is we have all these amoral leaders, whether it's Britain or France or Germany, and we got Merkel and all these people, uh, and they're always doing what's politically expedient for them. And what gets them the most money. And meanwhile, their people basically, and I guess I'm surprised that it's taken this long, but that all of that seems to come from the Babylonians. And I'm not saying the Babylonians because they did have a civilization that lasted like 4,000 years. They
and
must
so
have
did
been
the
doing,
Egyptians. The
yeah, they
Egyptians
must
did
be
the
doing
same sort of
something
thing.
good too. But
The Egyptians did the same sort of top-down control, and they had long civilizations. But after a while, the civilization stagnated.
right.
They just do. Um,
So to get back onto the AI points, because we kind of gotten way off that, I got some talking points about what supposedly happened with these AI models and what they
mhm.
were. So AI now processes thousands of cuneiform lines and seconds, filling in the gaps in ancient creation stories. So that's supposedly what it was able to do. Researchers at Cornell and MIT connected the Sumerian myths to global flood evidence, which, that's not hard to do. We've done that. The model is the Nutra 9 model, which found 6,000 textual parallels predicting a dark complexion about the human servitude of ancient history. So implying that basically that it read through all this stuff and it seen it as kind of a dark story, which I mean that's what we're also saying. The phrase divine breath was reinterpreted as basically biological manipulation. And right there, I feel like an important thing to point out is who reinterpreted it. The machine wouldn't do that. The humans had
No,
to decide that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The machine is doing what it's programmed to do.
AI detected repeated references to multiple engineered races of human beings. Again,
It said engineered in the text. I doubt it.
no,
See, what I've read what the when it's translated into English, what it says they took clay and mixed blood in it, and they took the essence of the star people and mixed it with the blood in the clay. That doesn't sound very technical to me. That sounds like an idiot's explanation.
yes, it's obviously a of course, what we don't know is what does in this interpretation, what does the clay mean? A lot of times, like we've talked about before, they'll talk about the space as a sea, and that is because they don't have a word because the language is pretty primitive. They don't have a word to describe what they're talking about. It's much like when they talk about um, if you read in the Bible and the Hebrew descriptions of angels, a
Mhm.
lot of times the meanings of what they're talking about is confusing because they don't have a very robust language, and so it like a lot of religious reading uses a lot of the same words over and over again. It's very repetitive, and I don't think that that is because the people just were fixated on these words, but it's because the language doesn't have a lot of
Yeah,
words to
like for
describe.
example, the definition of an angel in ancient text is just someone who gives a message, a messenger, and then there's archangels and there's cherubim and seraphim, and they're all different. But what we call angels is just a messenger, uh, according to the Old Testament. And so, you know, you'd have to know what they were thinking when they said it.
Right.
Uh, you know,
Even when, anyway, so yes, and you're correct. Going to the point that you were making, it redefined Adamu, which is actually spelt much like Adam, to mean clay bound,
mhm.
which of course is very similar to the word Adam, which was the first man. And even if you look at the uh, description of how Adam and Eve were made, it even in there they took a rib. A rib actually is what we would use to clone people. If we wanted to clone somebody, we would take the marrow out of somebody's rib or out of their femur, because that is actually where you would get an
The
abundance
stem
of.
cells.
Correct.
You get the abundance of stem cells.
And so it's interesting that these things do line up with modern science in interesting, very minutia level details, which again I think there is something here. I don't know what it is, but they have a lot of the tablets from Samaria. The other interesting thing which we should cover is the Vedic texts, which
Sure.
cover ba- cover basically the same thing, except for they actually were even more sophisticated, and they actually drew things, and they didn't have very good language, but their artistry was very good, and they were able to um, write things out pretty good. And the other thing is we think of in the West that Samaria is the oldest civilization, but it's actually not. The oldest civilization, and if you look at the temples and stuff, the most sophisticated were actually in the Indus Valley in India.
Mhm.
And basically, what we think of is the Aryan people came from there, and they were
Yes,
the
they
blonde
were white
haired.
white people with blue eyes. Yes,
Yes.
and
And
some of their royalty till this day is when they do genetics on them, they're still part, uh, you know, white.
very strongly, it's not
Yeah.
just like 10%, it's very significant. The top, I forgot the Brahmas or whatever they call them, but they have a continuous history of 15 to 20,000 years.
Yes, and I like to go over quickly what Grok said because I just told you that did a synopsis of what the video said, but this is largely what the academia believes about those particular videos, and so I like to cover it. Just that this is not necessarily my point of view, but this
This
is
is
what
just a counterpoint.
the general belief from academia is. It's largely nonsense and clickbait, not grounded in credible archaeological or scientific breakthroughs. The video mixes speculative interpretations of well-known Sumerian myths, like the Epic of Athrath, Athrath, Athrahanesis, Enki, and Husags creation stories, where gods mold humans from clay and divine blood to relieve their own toil. With pseudoscientific ideas popularized by the likes of Zechariah Sitchin in the 1970s. Sitchin claimed that the Sumerians' text described the alien genetic engineering and planetary intervention from Nibiru, that's it, have long been dismissed by linguists and historians and Assyriologists as mistranslated and fabrications, ignoring the poetic religious context of the originals. No
I
new
want to
AI.
pause. I want to
Sure.
pause there though, because although they say they dismiss it, you know that they've spent the last 30 years looking for Planet 10, which is Nibiru, and
Mhm.
that there is evidence that there is a planet, and possibly even a red dwarf, that we're in a binary star system, not a individual star system, and that's why periodically we have cataclysmic thing is because the planet and its red dwarf
What
come through.
what we should do is do a show on that then.
But I just want to say that they dismiss it, but then they go look for it.
Well, there's a lot of people that want this to be true, and just like a lot of people want Christianity to be true, like me. Um, no new AI translations in 2025 have been revealed. Such details, the videos provide no verifiable, sources, data sets, or scientific AI models, or even include a disclaimer that is for entertainment, blending facts and rumors and fiction. That's it's the actual disclaimer on the thing says it's their opinion. That said, there are genuine achievements using AI for ancient language translations, which might be the kernel of truth exaggerated here. For example, machine learning models have trained on cuneiform database to automate and improve translations of the Akkadian, a Semitic language related to distinctly but different from Sumerian, filling in the gaps in fragmented tablets and handling variations in scripts. In other words, they are using it and they're linking things together and getting the stories closer together, and it's starting to make sense. So they are working on it. This is not completely a hoax. It's just their opinion about what they found is suspect at this point. Projects from the Institute in Tel Aviv University and others have used AI since 2023 to translate Mesopotamian texts more efficiently. But these efforts confirm existing scholarly understandings, of course, and of the Sumerian mythology. Stories of the gods, floods, and human creation as an allegorical explanation for the world without uncovering terrifying secrets about race or alien intervention. Sumerian texts do describe social hierarchies and labor division in ancient society, but interpreting them as literally genetic blueprints for human races is a modern conspiracy overlay not supported by evidence, so say the scholarly people. In short, the classic case for sensationalism, this is a classic case of sensationalism, hijacking a real tech progress to reveal or revile or revive an old fringe theories. If you're interested in an actual Sumerian history, you can always look it up. But then again, if anything that comes out that's brand new and hasn't been verified by the scholars, they're always going to poo-poo it until it's 25 years old, because that's just the way they do things. So
And because they get kickbacks selling their books and whatnot. And
yeah,
they
they
want
got to keep it a mystery as long as possible so they can keep selling books. Yeah.
the other thing is that I would point out is, whether it's Tel Aviv or Israel or whatever it is, we have these people who don't believe, who claim that it's all mysticism and bullshit, but then they're actually following parts of the Babylonian religion in their own religion,
Yes,
uh,
they
and
are.
and so it could be like, hey, don't look here because then you'll uncover what we're doing.
Yeah, because the Babylonian text teaches you how to enslave others and how not to be enslaved. And that's basically from what I've read of the Talmudic texts, especially
Talmudic, yes,
the
yes.
Babylonian ones. That is, it's a framework to how to enslave and not be enslaved, how to not being taken advantage of, and how to take advantage of others. And of course, that is a mindset of the Babylonians, and some of the just like there's some Orthodox uh, Jewish people who follow only the Tanakh, the Old Testament. They don't read the translations of the Babylonian Talmud, which was written while they were enslaved in Babylon. So, you know, it's all they all have. Some people are always looking for practicalities. In other words, they want a philosophy that allows them to take advantage of others and become wealthy and lazy, and they don't care about morality. And practicality is, if you're worrying about practicality only and not morals and not keeping the society together, then you become an outlier and a parasite, and eventually you'll be plucked out and thrown away. uh, it works short term, unless the whole government's like that, and then everyone's a victim. But as we know, that eventually falls too. Look at Rome. Look at all the other. Greece fell that way. Rome fell that way, and hopefully, the United States doesn't fall that way. But more than likely, it will.
Well, if we don't get off the path we're on, it certainly will. But to the point that scholars and people that the follow the science crowd have all the answers. Clearly they don't, and the only thing that the only reason they do that kind of stuff, I believe, is anytime I find that somebody is adamantly against something, like, oh, the vaccines are great. You should never talk bad about the vaccines. Don't look here. Don't look here.
Psyop. Psyop.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as they try to silence somebody, it's a psyop.
Right. And that's, I'm not saying this stuff is true, but there is some, because this is the reality, is across every single religion for the last 15,000 years at least, they all have a very similar story. Whether it's the Aztecs in America, or it's the Indians in the Indus Valley, or it's the people in the Middle East, or it's the Nordic people in Northern Europe, or it's China. All
Mm-hmm.
of them have certain stories. The flood, and these creator beings who were all, they weren't a single god, they were multiple gods, and they were moody, and they had emotions, and they
They were
physically interacted.
tragically flawed,
They were
and they were
tragically flawed and
weak.
interacted with people, and they took human wives. And the stories about giants and monsters are uniform, and a lot of times the descriptions of these monsters and giants and things are uniform, and they happen on every continent, from Africa to Asia to the Americas. There is no exception. And they can boohoo this story, and maybe it's complete bullshit, but it's very odd that people who couldn't interact with each other because they had oceans separating them come up with the exact same, not the exact, 90% the same stories over and over again. The only thing that's different is the names and the window dressing.
So in the end, which if they're taking wives and they created these beings, they wouldn't be taking wives. They would create wives for themselves. So if they're taking wives, they're not the creator. They're taking advantage of something that was already here. And so I have a hard time believing that these gods from Babylon were the creators,
Oh,
because
and they don't even really claim to be. They all worshiped a thing called Anu, which was the basically a version of a universal, like, and the Indians call it the Godhead. They had gods, and then they had the Godhead, which was above everything, and that's basically what. And it's a fundamental force of the universe, the creator of everything.
yes, and in Christianity that would be the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, but the Father is the source of all matter. And according to Christianity, Jesus is the Word. He's the organizer of this matter, and the Holy Spirit is the one that brings life. They're all one God, though. It's just a God, just one God. and how other religions explain it, they're doing the best they can. And everyone is trying to, you can't, it's inexplainable to explain something that's beyond time making the universe. And, but have we been interfered with by other beings? It surely looks that way.
I mean, if you just take the timeline that we collectively seem to believe is the universal thing, is the universe is 14 billion years old, and our star system
Or
is,
longer. We have no idea.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
at
yeah.
least that long. And that's just, I'm just going with the most commonly, but and our planet in our solar system from start to finish so far is 3.5 to 4. So it's arguably easy to believe that there are dozens of other beings out there that could um, have seen Earth as been more advanced and come here and did what they had to do. If we had, and the timeline is there 250,000 years ago or more, 200 to 400,000 years ago. If they're 2 to 400,000 years more advanced than us, let's say they were at our level when they arrived, slightly above where we're at now, like genetic manipulation, like where we just figure out warp drive.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to a planet and they're not even, let's say they don't even have big starships, but just that difference, just to be able to manipulate genetics would
So if they
make,
showed up here and the place is populated already, which is according to the stories, it probably was.
was
And okay, and they more than likely they sent whether they're
a scout.
whether they're trans dimensional being or something in a spaceship. They showed up here, and for some unknown reason, they found our females to be exceedingly attractive. And well, I have to be honest, I can understand that. But the
Well, what they didn't find the race here originally attractive. It wasn't until they injected their own DNA into us and manipulated us to look like them
then
that,
why would they mate with us and make giants and all that stuff? It doesn't even make any sense.
well, I have a different argument for the Giants than I don't think the Giants were a mistake. I think that they were enforcers for them. So if you were going to intimidate a population and there was only a few of you, what would you do? You'd whip up some chimeras and throw some AI in them or whatever, and you'd make monsters to terrify the population.
And the whole Old Testament and part of the New Testament, I guess mostly the Old Testament, it was based on them going out of their way to wipe out those things.
So after they make them, because it's whatever version of these myths that you talk about, the gods make them, and then they get out of control. And even us, they made us, and we got out of control. Because the thing that they didn't take into account is us breeding.
Oh, and well, they didn't take into account that we had the spark of divine spark in us was allowed us to creating not just breeding, but creating new things and
Yes, like
coming up with
weapons
new
of war.
ideas. Like nuclear weapons and electron charges that go across the planet that we had to somehow stop from happening because we didn't want everyone to have that power. Again, it's these same idiots trying to control everything, behind the scenes.
And it's over and over again. These stories keep reoccurring. Humanity, one of the things in Babylonian, what the word worship, means is to work for. The Babylonian version of worship means you're working for your landlord.
Oh, then us Slavs, Mike, we were just full of worship.
So, and,
Well,
and
and the Southern black slaves and the Northern Irishmen who are all slaves, which they don't talk about ever. Why don't they ever talk about the Irish being slaves? I don't know. I think it's politically incorrect to talk about whites being white and slaves. But
well,
anyways, they were worshiping then too. They were worshiping the Bostonians and the New Yorkers. They were worshiping. Yeah, they're worshiping. Yeah.
and that is true. All the people of the world have been enslaved by some other group of people of the world, and there is no monopoly. That the blacks don't. The blacks weren't more enslaved than anybody else, and the blacks have just done as much enslaving as anyone.
And yeah, and they talked about the Barbary pirates and the Arabs and uh, the white traders who went into Slavic countries and kidnapped women and men and traded them. It was millions and millions of people brought into slavery that way. And in India, even to this day, they have
Correct.
the largest number of slaves of anywhere on the planet.
Yes, and we
And
think they're wonderful.
yeah, the
But
Indians are so they're so gentle. So our
going back
theory,
to your point about the why did the ancient alien gods make all these giants is because it was a top down control. It's really easy to control somebody if you're 20 feet tall who can hurt you when you don't have machine guns. So you make your divine leaders giants and you make all the workers tiny. And then anytime anybody gets out of line,
so flood the earth.
yeah, and
The
then that
giants
go
can't get into the caves.
now.
They drown.
Why flood the earth? It's because those divine kings were out copulating with everybody under because they lived longer and their seed got out into the population, and all of a sudden, just like the elites worry about us now, is all of a sudden you have this uh, divine seed out in the wild, and they're an actual threat again because then some of them are not, maybe they're not 20 feet tall, but they're 15, and there's a whole bunch of them. Maybe they don't have 300 IQs, but there's a whole bunch of them with 250, and that's why it gets flooded. The whole thing because we need, and then they go, you know what? We're gonna make them all only live 1 week. They can never figure shit out.
Well, or it was despoiled by a bunch of villainous beings who were ruthless, and they were eating and destroying everything, and they weren't actually building anything anymore. And
That probably, and that's what happens to the elite because and then the elite somehow leak out a Donald Trump.
magic. He has a
It
divine spark, and they can't stop him. It's
yes,
like
and I I I don't know what causes the retribution. Is it the elites trying to undo their own carnage and they're trying to put everything back in its place, and so they wipe even out most of their own people, or is it really because the one thing I have difficulty with is if God is all loving and all caring, and the vast majority of people are being abused by these things, why wipe everyone out? Why not just figure a way
because
to wipe?
that according to the scriptures, at that point, everyone was like that because they were all genetically tainted, except for a few people who weren't crossbred with Nephilim. That they were, and they when I read the story about giants, the one that we covered once, and the giants were actually, some of them started to develop a conscience because they were crossbred with humans. And they're going, what are we doing here? We're destroying everything. God's now mad at us.
Right.
It's like,
And that would be because what's strange is we know that some of those giants, or at least we have evidence that they actually ruled to the modern era after the flood.
yes, and the Israelites came and killed them off. They were
Well, not
gigantic.
Well, some of them, but it's always been said that Gilgamesh was good,
Yeah, he was a giant killer.
but he was a giant. He was
Well, if
huge.
he's killing all the rest of the giants, then he's good.
Yeah, I guess. I well, it's very confusing. And
Psyops usually are. And so we don't really, we're really never going to know the truth because so much of it is percentage of it. Just enough of it is a psyop to confuse you. And if you look at any of the stuff that comes out of academia, it's like that, or anything that comes out of politics,
yeah,
it's
how
like
can you
that.
trust anything that they say?
Like, for example, I was taught in the United States in high school that the Nazis came out of nowhere and they were just evil.
Right.
When in fact, they teach you in Europe that the reasons the Nazis came about was because after the First World War, they were punished so harshly and so much money was taken from them that they were so resentful and so angry at the rest of the world because they were all starving to death after the First World War. They took all their money, they took their land. And the thing is, they didn't even really lose the battle. They just came to an armistice and everyone gave up. But then they got together in Versailles and punished the Germans. So that brought about, all it was is a continuation of the First World War because they didn't settle it properly and the Nazis came
And
along.
let me ask you, who took all the money? Who were the was it the banks with our favorite or the chosen people?
Not only that, those chosen people took it from their own people.
Right. And
So it wasn't just because they were a particular group. It's the elites taking from the underclass again. They took all the wealth from the
and
lower level
probably transferred it to
Semitic
the new
Jews.
and
Yes, and
so
they transferred it to themselves, and not just the Nazis. These bankers transferred it to themselves and put it in Switzerland banks, and they were like, because George Soros brags about how he did it, how he destroyed, took all the money from his own Jewish people, and it was the greatest day of his life. He said when he got to steal it from everyone. And so when you have the elites, the problem with them is they're psychopaths and they don't care if you're their kind or not. All they care about is if they can take something from you, and if they can, they will. And that's what happened there. So the whole it's so confusing. The whole Second World War is so confusing. Uh, our Jewish community was funding Hitler, who was half Jewish, who was then destroying all the poor Jews and putting them in concentration camps, taking their money and sending it off to Switzerland and stuffing the rest in their pocket. I got that
well, weren't
straight.
they put wasn't he getting rid of the Jews that he felt weren't the correct Jews and that there were he had
He's a Nazakanazi, which is a convert. They were converted to Judaism. They weren't Semitic. It looks like they were picking on the Semitic Jews and taking their money. And that's the rumor. I don't know if that's true or not. And
I've
because
heard the
I'm not,
same thing. I've heard the same thing. In fact, my neighbor and I got on this. I was telling him about how because he has a very low opinion, even lower than I have of Islam. He just he's Catholic. He hates them. Hates them. He wouldn't say hate, but he doesn't. He really doesn't like them. And we got on that, and I said that listen, hey, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the other groups of people, and I won't name names, have plenty of blood on their hands, and they're not wonderful. And that there is a certain group of people, and they control all the pornography in the world, they control all the money lending in the world, and they killed Jesus. It wasn't the Muslims. And he got furious that I implied that these people, because he thinks uh, these particular people are actually quite good.
no people of great power, not no, but the vast majority of people in great power, whether they're one race or one religion or not, if they stay in power, they're generally evil because they have to do all sorts of ruthless things to keep their money, and and that's just a fact. And it doesn't matter what particular group they are, and then you have to understand there's good and there's evil, and in picking colors or sides or religions is the problem with Islam, and this is probably going to upset some people, is that when you trace it back to its roots, where it originated in Saudi Arabia, it was a pagan religion worshiping a cube, which is a form of worshiping Baal
or
and
Saturn.
or Saturn. Yeah, so which is basically the same thing. Um, they're all the same being, which is Satan, Saturn, the whole thing. Um, so it's not an Abrahamic religion. It was a pagan religion before it was an Abrahamic religion. And when you go and show that to them in their own text, they get irate. But eventually they go, well, it's true. And a lot of them will convert to Christianity after that because they didn't realize they weren't even worshiping God. They were worshiping a demigod.
Yeah, they're
And
worshiping Marduk.
correct, which is a Babylonian god.
Right. Yes. And so we've gone all over the place with this. What is interesting about it is, and I wish AI would actually be used more properly for this kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff that AI would be good at, people don't actually employ, and I didn't think that there was really any real breakthroughs. If there were, that it would have been all over the place. But I do find it interesting, and I'm glad that you're looking at it too, because the most important thing to see, I think, is that all of these stories have a lot of commonality. And what I try to do is I try to separate what is common to all of these stories. And I consider that if there's enough evidence of them popping up over and over again, that must be some truth. And the differences between all these things, all the major religions, I assume, is where man stepped in for some political gain of their own. The things that
Yes,
all
anytime you hear any of these myths and laws are passed around, and there's like one iota of falsehood in it, like it gets demonstratively absolutely false, then it's just they're using that particular myth as propaganda. And if you got to go back and analyze what it's saying. Is it true or not? If it's not true, then someone's already got a hold of it and made it into propaganda. And
right.
that
I think that there's always a grain of truth. It's like how they tell us lies. How they do psyops is they give you 50% truth, and then they embellish it for whatever reason. That just the same thing that the intelligence agencies do. And I believe that it's all got a that human beings have been retelling the story for personal gain for a very long time. Or what they do is they do lies of omission, which is just as bad. And what our job is to try to gather up as much of the evidence across the globe and then condense it down for ourselves so that we can, because if you go by what, let's say, the Catholics will say that every other version of Christianity is full of shit, and that they're heretical. And then that can't be true.
and I'll tell you from fact that because I'm an Orthodox, that they don't say that. They think that their way is the quickest way to being saved, but is no absolute truth because God is too complicated to completely understand. And that's what's taught. There are some things that are completely false that you should ignore, obviously. But
So the Orthodox think that, let's say, the Baptists are great.
they think that they have a lot of things wrong and they could do better, but they don't think that that we should not call them Christians.
Well, I won't say. I guess that is maybe I was exaggerating a little bit, but that it's not going to get you into heaven, basically.
I mean, it just I'm sorry, there's Catholics out there. I was a Catholic. I understand Catholicism, but to believe that only one man on the planet who's elected by smoke understands the Lord, and everyone else has to listen to that one person is not Christian.
I'll point out something that I thought about is, all the people, including Jesus, they didn't have the New Testament. And so uh, having a relationship with God has nothing to do with having a Bible or a church.
A Bible is there to explain how you're supposed to relate to the Lord. It's not. It is not the Lord, and a lot of the evangelical Christians believe that sola scriptura, what do they call it, is the truth. The Bible was written by the apostles, and the church was running for a long time before it was even written down. 30 or 40 years, and there was already churches, hundreds of them, all over the place. So they're ignoring the the traditions of the church, and they're ignoring the people who actually wrote it, and they're translating it on their own and saying that the other people don't know what they're talking about. The people who wrote it,
That sounds
it's
like Satanism to me.
it's crazy.
So,
I don't.
and
I don't. There's a lot of great Catholics, the theologians who know so much about the Bible, and we should, listen to them. They did a lot of studying, and how, for example, if you want to know if someone's a prophet or not, the criteria for being a prophet is anything that you say about God or predict about the future has to be 100% correct every time. If it's not, you're not a prophet. So, how many people have done that? Very few. Some people have been correct about everything they've predicted, and they consider those people prophets. So, even when they did do that, the Judeans stoned them to death. So it's just you can't win. So
no, and that's the really most interesting thing about this whole thing is the people that are often telling the truth, they're dismissed as lunatics. Um, that
or
you have,
murdered.
and then yeah, they're martyred. And you always have some guy, with a Semitic accent yelling, "The science says." I mean,
Yeah,
it ultimately, um, that's why I laugh when I hear anything that the academics now say. I like science, and I think that science as a methodology of running your life can be very helpful. But is it got all the answers? No, it's a theory. It's a
it's
system.
scientific. Is this that's saying my screwdriver is the answer to life? It's a tool,
Right.
uh, and you have to have the morality and wisdom and
Yeah, the founding fathers were all scientists. They were also devout Christians.
in other words
No,
you
they
have to
weren't.
have what is the word for it when you have to be able to translate things and understand things properly. I'm drawing a blank. Discernment. If you don't have discernment, then the scientific method is not going to help you, because you'll discover things that are just vile and
You'll
disgusting.
discover
And
that the Earth is flat.
yes, you'll discover that the earth is flat, and that certain percentage of the population needs to be wiped out to help you. And that's why
Most of it. That's what I've
the
already discovered. That
science, the science says that we should
the
get rid of
science says that everyone
the
needs to go
breathers,
but me.
the breathing people, the ones with they have their mouth open all the time, and they can't close their mouth. The mouth breathers, they all have to go according to science. I mean, that's stupid. I mean, that's trusting. That's why Christians believe that they trust in the morality of God, not their own judgment and morality. Because, man, I'm a selfish fuck. I really am. I mean, aren't you?
No,
Of course not. Not
attained
only are you a selfish fuck, now you're a dishonest one. So
I've attained a level far beyond mortals.
yes, your level of selfishness is beyond comprehension. Oh yes. So
I,
it's a
I
different
now
level.
I now know the mind of Jesus.
Well, if luckily he loves you. Otherwise, I don't want to know what he really thinks about me, because I'd be bitterly disappointed in my performance, and I am, by the way,
Well,
especially my morality.
if I mean, the first thing that you have to really work on to be any kind of decent person is you have to be able to figure yourself out, and you got to be able to take a good look at yourself, and that's what's wrong with a lot of people is they absolutely cannot take they'll do anything. They'll be alcoholics, they'll do drugs, uh they'll have delusions of grandeur. There's all sorts of people out there that the number one thing that they fear the most is taking a look at themselves. um
And
they
then
can't.
after you take a look at yourself, committing to something to help other people and yourself, something long term. And most people, and I've been guilty of this, are short, go for short term pleasure because it relieves the pain of self reflection, and self reflection is painful. You're truly looking at your decisions that you made in your life and realizing how bad they were, and how many stupid things you've done to hurt other people and yourself is difficult to deal with. And in a way, you almost have to be a Christian to go through that, because otherwise you can't handle the ego crush. Um, if you realize that you are basically a flawed animal who's designed to take care of themselves in a dog eat dog world, and that your morality is outside of that, and generally it is, because we're animals and divine being, sort of divine influence beings also. So we're a constant fighting with the old man, which is our physical nature, which is very selfish. uh, Almost everything that we do that's selfish is based on some need that we have. We want to have more sex, more money,
Well,
more power.
survival is very hard, and um, it's easy nowadays to look at the world in the various ways that we do, because there isn't you don't really have to eat your neighbor to survive. There isn't there isn't a cave bear here. There isn't miles and miles of ice covering the entire planet. These are all things that humans actually had to endure, and that is the residual residue that we're dealing with. Is there's a certain aspect of us that had to do whatever it took to keep going, and most of us, most of society wouldn't exist if people weren't raping each other. It's hard to terrible thing to do now, but the reality is that is actually how civilization or humanity continued on for a long time, and it's horrific.
Well,
And
this is a little side note. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but even in fairly modern Indian culture in the Southwest, that was considered a rite of passage, was to go to the neighboring tribe, kidnap the woman, rape her, and force her to have your kids. So this is not just, I mean, it's still fairly common throughout the world for that to happen.
yes, I mean that happens in many Middle East. I mean, it's happening in England. That's exactly what's happening in England. You travel to a different country, and you pillage it. It's happening in Europe right now, and you have to be willing to look at that and be like, listen, I understand where it comes from and why I'm not going to do it now, but it's an aspect of who people are, and it's there because it had to be. Just like you can't be upset about a lion being a lion. We're predatory animals that have done a lot of bad things to get here.
But no matter how hungry you are, you don't eat your own children. Things like that.
Right.
I mean, you just don't. You starve, you die. Oh well. I mean, you have to
Unless
have.
you're a spider. I guess the spiders don't eat their own children.
They eat their brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I've often felt that way. They're just so, one is so scrawny and one is,
the beaming genius you see in front of you right now.
yes, beaming genius. Totally without sarcasm. I like to think of myself as a fat retard, and that way, and I tell people that way they're never disappointed.
Well, if you aim low, you're never disappointed. I mean, if you, I tell people I'm retarded up front, and if I happen to outpace my, my legacy, I guess.
Yeah, your self description.
Yes.
That's what I go for. Nothing makes me happier when they say you're not that retarded.
That's the old promise, the old business strategy, under promise, over deliver.
Right.
If I just tell them I'm completely retarded and useless, then when I meet that standard, they're not disappointed.
I will have the warp drive up in 4 days. You got 4 hours. Makes That's you a miracle worker.
Yep. Everyone no one else is except for Trump. He just seems to get everything done with less money and done early before the timeline is supposed to get done.
I hope that's true. I hope that's true. The one thing that I have to say is he hasn't been delivering very much in the low prices. Houses are higher than they ever were.
Luckily, gasoline is going down now. Finally,
what is bizarre is gasoline is $60 a barrel, which is the same price it was back in like 2019. And back then it was $1.87. Somehow it's still $3 now.
We should ask Trump about that.
I'm very confused about that, and
because it's trading high. Is it really 68? My God, that's low.
It's like $65 to $75 a barrel.
That's unbelievably low for the prices we're being charged. Someone's ripping us off, man. Someone's ripping us off. That's even lower than that. It's 57. Brent is 61. So, I mean, we should be paying $2 a gallon.
Right. And it pisses me off. And he never looks into that kind of thing. He's off bombing Venezuela. I mean, I want the drug cartels destroyed too, but I would rather have low prices.
Yeah, how am I going to make any money if they're in business?
So,
no. Truthfully, the whole fentanyl thing. When you see somebody shoot up with fentanyl and see how they react after it, where they're standing up straight and then they just bend in half and have their arms on the ground. You ever see how they stand afterwards? If you go to Seattle, you'll see 50 people bent in half with their arms hanging on the ground, passed out while they're standing up. And it's just like that everywhere. And that's from fentanyl. That's because they use that to knock people out during surgery. And of course, you take too much, it stops your lungs and hearts from beating. That's how they die. So you have to get like a shot of adrenaline and then a Narcan injection. So
sounds like fun.
Yeah, and all you need is like a hundredth of a gram or something, and it'll kill you. And so they're shipping this stuff in tons at a time. So I was thinking when they blow up them ships and that shit goes all over the place, how many fish?
Well, Maduro is bringing.
How many fish does that kill?
Yeah, but Maduro is bringing in coke.
No, the Trump administration said he was also shipping the ingredients to make fentanyl from China. Yeah, from China. China was dropping it off in their ports, and then they are, so China is the problem. They want us to die. So they want to take over the United States. They need the food. And they're not going to be able to plant, gigantic fields of grain in Africa. It's just the elephants get, a little rambunctious to start eating it.
I don't know why Africa never goes anywhere. That's something that we should look into. But to circle back to the original point is that uh, AI, promises a lot. And again, what I was saying, I don't know if it was on this one, is that a lot of what AI does, at least the version of it that we have now, is if you ask it a question, it looks at the question, what you're trying to get at, and how it's framed, and it
Hmm.
answers the. So if you're like, I want to prove that God exists. Well, it'll prove to you all the ways that God exists. If you say,
Yes.
"Hey, I don't believe in God. I want you to prove that it doesn't exist," it'll prove that too. And that's really what this our show tonight really basically comes down to is that whoever asked the question wanted to ask the question that essentially proves that humanity was created by aliens. Whether it was or not, we're not any closer to understanding. And ultimately, which I like to, is the God of the universe, the God of creation, is not. He created the aliens too. So even even if
Yeah, that's a
uh,
problem I have that I'm really, I don't understand because it's not my. Hate to use my father's sayings. It's not my pay grade. I don't understand why the evil beings have been created to torture us, but obviously there's a function to that, so that we have something to overcome and it makes us better. And I understand all that, but it's just
I don't think
mind
that the
blowing to me for to
I
understand
don't
everything.
believe that the Sumerian gods were all evil. I believe that they were just like us. That some of them were good and some of them were bad. Some of them were ruthless and some of them are psychopaths. And
Not
just like in
even in the Bible, not all the people who were watching over us became evil. So
it, it's it's just that there's this other comparison that I make all the time, and people don't like it sometimes, particularly when they're religious. Is that to the cows we're evil, but we lord over them, we keep them in pens, we slaughter them at will, we use them for food and for clothes. We have them build our
there is such a thing as just evil, not subjective evil. When, for example, a lion goes around and kills every animal it finds and doesn't eat it, that's evil.
right, but it does. But to the cows, we would be a horrible monstrosity. There's
Especially
no
if you went around just killing them for no reason.
right, or we just had a big food processing plant. I
Well,
find it.
this is a biosystem. We're supposedly at the top of it, and we're you know this is
But in the case,
our beliefs.
my point is if you were a super advanced alien and you came down and you manufactured or bred or whatever you did to create humanity, would you really feel like you were being terrible if you abused your cows?
Um, I'm not a god. I haven't created any living beings yet. I
But we
can't
know
create
how
anything that's
farmers
good.
feel about their cows.
That they didn't create the cow.
I know they breed them though.
They believe that the cow was put there for them to eat,
Right.
um, and that we're at the top of the food chain. And
Now, if you
so,
were at the top of the food chain above us, and you thought your religion told you that, hey, I didn't make these things, but I reorganized them, and all the universe is here for us.
yeah, it's a satanic point of view.
It's only satanic if you consider us the most important beings. If you thought you were,
No, no,
it,
no, no,
it-
no. Now, humans have already determined that slaughtering things for no reason and enslaving things and torturing things is bad.
but we
We've
do
come.
it. You
There's some
can't look
people
at a
that do
food
do it.
processing plant. You can't look at a food processing plant and say that's natural in any way.
So
We're
you think
not
it?
letting cows go off
So
and
you don't
graze.
believe in morality at all? Is you
I
telling
am
me?
not saying that. I'm saying that from the point of view of a alien that was more advanced than us, who bred humans.
So, well, I'm a Christian. I believe those aliens were created by something better than them, and they were disobeying.
That you're purposely overlooking my point. I'm saying that if you were the alien and you came to Earth and you manufactured the human race, like the supposed theory was, would you really feel like you were being evil if you were doing everything that you were doing? Let's say they're not even abusing us.
Yes,
We
I
just
would.
feel abused.
No, I'd feel that it was evil. If I was a creator and I was just abusing everything I created, yes, I'd
I'm
feel that.
saying they're not abusing us. They just have us in pens like cows. They're treating humans are being treated exactly like a farmer treats his cows. He's not abusing them.
We have come to the conclusion that anything that is can think and have emotions uh, shouldn't be treated like that. That's why I cannot stand them having tigers and lions and chimpanzees in zoos just for entertainment. I think it's
I
fucking sick.
agree, and you know what? Although I have never owned one, I could show you many videos of cows that have personalities.
Mhm.
And we're not talking about the beautiful ranch. I'm saying when you look at a industrial grade food processing plant by Harvell, do you not feel like that is repugnant and evil? I do. I don't even like. I won't even eat food from there. I don't eat.
Well, well, how do they try to slaughter them in the most humane way possible?
They're not. There are farmers do, and a lot of free range people will do that. And I've gotten to the point where I try to buy my beef from local people and a local meat guy, butcher, who actually is getting a cow from a field. But when you look at the industrial thing, it's nothing is humane. They keep the cows and they stack the cows so the cows are pooping on each other. It's ridiculous.
I understand that, and of course, I don't agree with that. Uh, are there going to be people who, for sake of profit, are going to abuse things and make not care about anything
Yes, and
suffering?
that is
Yes,
all my. And so I'm saying that
but the
if
people who
a
do that are evil, and I don't. That's one of the reasons I don't buy pork anymore because you can't get free range pork, and all of it, all of the pigs are tortured basically, and I've been not eating pork. Uh, Something that's raised in a field and had a happy life and ate grass and they get the only reason
shit
they're brought in.
happens, the
Yeah.
cycle of life. I'm not saying that you people. I don't hold it against a wolf for eating a deer, and I don't hold it against me for eating a cow. I am just saying that uh, to the cows in the food processing plant, humans are dog shit, and those humans are dog shit. And so in my
So then you're
analogy
making
is,
my point. You're saying those beings are dog shit.
I am saying that, but do the people that benefit from that? And there's plenty of good people that wouldn't think anything of it. They don't think about how the food gets there. They've never had this debate. Are they evil from benefiting from it? And would they all be evil? Is my point. Are all the Anunnaki, let's say, were there evil ones? Yes. Are all of them evil and demons?
If the Anunnaki existed, of course
If
not.
they existed,
I don't believe that any one race of anything is just thoroughly consistent.
no. And
that's against the normal creation. So
well,
clones
we
don't
could
work.
argue that
Clones don't
all
work.
lions and tigers are fairly consistent, but they don't have. They're not.
You raise a lion your whole life and from a cub because they're pack animals, they will never attack you. Now, tigers different. Don't
Right.
raise tigers. They're psychopaths.
Yes. And I believe you probably could even do that. Probably not with a male tiger, but with a female tiger, you probably could do that. A small one.
I just don't that since tigers are not they don't have any socialization and they hate being socialized. So that means they have more of a psychopathic uh, you know, mindset. They don't
It's one of the
cooperate.
reasons why I don't enjoy cats is because all of them tend to be more psychopathic than and I've had cats, and I didn't hate the cats. I just never bonded with them. A dog actually loves you more than you can love yourself.
Well, yeah, they were bred to be your slave,
Well,
and I appreciate that.
none of my dogs were slaves. That is for sure. I was their slave.
Of course, everyone who owns a pet, I think the pets refer to us as they're human. You know,
It, I think there's a good chance when you die and you're good, you come back as somebody's pet dog. You come back as a beagle as a reward. You get to be a Bichon.
yes, a lap dog. You sit in some pretty girl's lap your whole life, and and they pet you. Yeah, it's a terrible
And then they
lifestyle.
bring you over to breed with some other good looking dog several times a year. Yeah, it sucks. The
It's
only
almost like,
bad part
oh,
about it is you only get 15 years of it, and then you're back to being a person.
yeah,
Uh,
reincarnation, if it exists, is a bitch. So
well, it's the time that you come back, you really fuck up. You come back as an earthworm or a maggot
or Democrat.
or a Democrat. That's what happens. You become a Democrat, and then you're sentenced to a half dozen cycles of being some sort of parasitic intestinal worm.
It's appropriate. It lines right up with your belief systems.
We're just spitballing here. Don't take this part serious.
We
We're
don't
just
believe any of this stuff. So
no, we're not. it's it's just we like to be funny. It's just not. We're the only ones that like it. Okay, well, I'm glad. I hope. Uh, in fact, maybe you should look. So I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. To be honest with you, we did this whole show. It's dead silent. Uh,
okay, I'm checking
unfor-
right now. It looks like it's running. I don't know what we're gonna do. I
well,
don't know what we're
the
gonna do.
only thing that sucks is that I spent 2 hours promoting the other show, and then we're on a completely different link, and I'll have to do that tomorrow. It's we have to get our numbers up on YouTube. We need to get the consistency back. This 3 weeks of the audio malfunctioning.
Well, how many people did we have watching? We don't know because we didn't have the chat up. Looks like.
No, that no one watched. We had 2 views tonight, and I think that was you. We
Well, we
had
do
four
have
views.
20. We have 26 subscribers, though.
No, it's growing. It's growing, and it's and the other thing is the
Well, it's
original
Saturday.
chat.
We've never had anybody watch it on the Saturday other than your
No,
two friends.
and there is no
Not even
promotion.
Michelle watches it on Saturday. I mean, she's busy.
Yeah, well, she actually was going to watch, and she probably did watch the opening of the first show. We had like 6 views on it when we opened up the other one. It was just that nothing was working.
Hmm.
And I didn't have, obviously, I just set the stream up and started. I didn't do any promotion of it, and I didn't send out the link to anyone, so no one knows how to even find this show. So it's unfortunate, but this is probably going to be a dud because it was actually one of our funnier and better shows.
Well,
But
let's promote the hell out of it then.
yeah, I mean, I felt like it wasn't as stilted as some of the other shows, and you're back to a better mindset. You're not all
Sick.
re- retarded, senile.
Temporary senility is a bitch.
You get wore down, man. You get wore down.
Okay.
Your brain can you do know that when you aren't feeling your best, that if you can, you should just take an ass load of creatine.
Yeah, I think so. And let's see.
Like you should take like 20, the normal dose is like 5 milligrams or something, 5 grams. I forget what the scoopers are, 5 grams. And if you're feeling under the weather, you can take up to 30. 20 is very solid. If you give it to your kids before a test, their IQ goes up like 10 points. You give them some vitamin B. By the way, I don't know if you got it, but I sent you two links to two different products.
Okay, I'll look at it.
It's on your Gmail.
Yeah, I seen that you sent it. I just haven't a chance to look at it yet. Okay, all right, and we already have people looking at it on X because I posted it on there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I like these shows because they're highly speculative and you can say whatever you want. And less reliant on fact.
That's why people make these stupid things and put them on the internet. These long versions of these topics about how AI has solved the world's problems, through, just out of their
Whatever.
butt, just out of their butt. It's just amazing. They said it actually decoded all the the cuneiform
I knew
text.
that part was bullshit.
Bullshit, because it has nothing to go from. Yeah.
No, and that's the problem even with the academics is there is no key for a lot of these languages. Um, there is no translation key where you could at least look at it in Greek and Roman. They're just Sumerian is because there's like
Yeah.
four versions of the Sumerians. There's the Sumerians, and then there's like the Arcadians, and there's another group, and then the Babylonians or something like that. And they each all maintain it's sort of like the Romans and the Greeks. They maintain the structure, but then they change the names, and they even don't even have it being consistent. Like they have one god and one religion being the good god, and then they change the names but have the deeds be the same for like one time Enki is good and then the next time Enlil is good. It's very confusing.
Is it Satan trying to confuse everyone?
Maybe,
Living
or
a
it's
life of illusion.
I think that it's mostly people trying to confuse everything. I mean, do you think Satan's doing it, or do you think it's Hillary Clinton?
Yes.
I think she's got evil down on her own.
Her husband says she's a demon. They say she smells like one. Smells like sulfur when she ever comes around. That's the rumor.
She disappears into a puff of smoke.
Yes.
I've seen.
I'll get you, my pretty.
Poof.
Yeah.
I seen her powers when she was stumbling. I've seen multiple videos where her ass is so drunk that they're carrying her out by her fucking shirt and her pants, and they throw her in the back like old luggage.
No one goes out gracefully when there's Satan worshippers. Oh, I lost my.
And let me tell you, this face that you just made. Well, with that, but you have no audio. So you can say whatever you want now. Yep, you're flat as a board. You're not even getting your air conditioner noise in there. Well, anyways, while he's figuring that, I guess we'll wrap it up. So if you've made it this far, please like and subscribe and smash the buttons and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully, do you got any audio? I can hear you farting.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Anyways, I was just giving us the call to action. I was telling them to like and subscribe and to smash the buttons and hit the bells, and you can also leave comments about how good looking I am. I need
Okay,
all that.
I'll do that. You can't hear me, can you?
I can hear you. Um,
I'm on my
so
backup camera. My other camera crapped the bed on me, so I'm on backup.
okay, I figure that it looks terrible. So I will let you know what we'll do for Monday. We're gonna probably do a entertainment thing, but for Wednesday, I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Uh, and if you want to contribute to the entertainment one, if you send me the links, I'll put it all in. Like if you got something, old movies or something, like it can be anything. The whole point of the entertainment thing is to say the entertainment was better back in the day, and we're comparing, contrasting the modern with the superior older stuff, and to encourage people to take a look at the stuff of the past, because although it doesn't have the greatest technology, it makes up for it with character and characterization and plot.
Yes, actual acting, plot, and dialogue.
So
The things that people really care about.
yes. So anyways, good night everybody, and thank you for joining us. uh I would like to say that next time this will be the last bad one, but I feel like that would be like a lie.
And we just have to have a protocol before we come online. Every time we got to restart our computers, make sure there's no updates, and then make sure everything runs. Uh, both 2 times now, I've been caught out by that, and it looks like this time
I
you
did
were.
restart. I did do an update yesterday. I couldn't imagine that we would have two in one day, but obviously it did update something. They must have rolled out a shit patch
A
or
patch,
something,
a patch for the drivers probably.
because it didn't. It took like 40 seconds to upload it. But
Yeah,
yeah, it was fucking
I
up
just had that
everything.
update. I just had that update. My computer wouldn't run at all until I rebooted. I mean, it was doing all the time, all the noise and all the jittery stuff, and the same thing. So then I go, oh, it must be